Hello Scorpio friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Scorpio May 2022 Astrology Must-Knows Horoscope Forecast. Definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com to see all of the free goodies I make for you each month, including written horoscopes in addition to these video horoscopes. And if you forget that website address by the time this video is done, if you're a YouTube viewer, click on the little more button in the bottom right of the screen to reveal the notes and the links will be there. And if you are listening on my syndicated podcast, Astro Kisses, then you can look at the notes underneath the podcast. I am celebrating this week 100,000 subscribers to my YouTube channel. So thank you so much for those of you who have been with me for 10 years or anywhere in between or just recently joined. I really appreciate you giving me the reason to share what I'm excited about and passionate about. So thank you so much for your support over all of this time. This is for you if Scorpio is your sun sign, your rising sign, your moon sign, or any other Scorpio placement that you can watch for. Mercury, Mars, Venus, the deeper you go into your chart, the happier I am about it, and this is certainly going to be part of your astrological picture. If you're a late degree Scorpio, any of those placements are late degree, so we'll say like November 15th through the rest of the sign, or like 23 degrees or so through the rest of the sign, then I highly recommend you additionally listen to or watch my Sagittarius report, because you very late degree people can benefit from both of those readings. What do we have going on in May? Well, only that little old eclipse in your sign and all kinds of other things. So we're going to get into the must-knows for May for you, for Scorpios this month. The first big must-know is that we do have almost double the sweet aspects compared to the salty ones again. And that happens in April. We had a nice ratio in March. Sweet and salty dates, if you're not familiar with my terminology, are basically the places where the stars are getting along and the places where they're not, which are the salty aspects. So we do have a lot of sweet aspects this month, and certainly much more than the challenging ones. So that's very exciting. And it's not everything, but it is something. It's definitely part of our astrological picture. The next big must-know is that the tides are turning back. Mercury is going in retrograde. If you've been watching my reports, even for the last month or any time before then, you'll know that I've been celebrating March and April as a big, needed, super important time for launching and moving forward. A time when the personal planets, Mercury, Mars, and Venus, were all direct and didn't have any shadow period mischief. And these are two lines of delineation, really, as far as pushing out, the tide going out, and pulling in, which is what we're coming back into now. So if you have your launches, your big decisions, your plans, your brave and bold movements forward, March and April are your times for those. And as we're getting into May, it's time to dial it back in, get a little closer to, yourself, inside yourself, inwards and backwards. And just keep in mind that for all of May and the first half of June, we are in this tides going in, which really benefits from keeping yourself as lightly scheduled as possible. Any plans that you make, try to have them in pencil, not in pen, and let everybody involved know that, to save you some stress if later on you need to change those plans, and to basically leave room for last minute magic. The more you leave yourself unscheduled, the more you can say yes to things that may just come to you as the tides roll in. So May is a time to be the spider, see what food comes to you from the webs that you spent March and April very busily weaving. And it's a time to look to the past more than the future, and a time when there can be some confusion or plans get called into question or there's uncertainty. And it's a time to just kind of be with that and deal with it and deal with what comes to you rather than conjuring or trying to force anything. Another big must-know is that we have very strong Pisces energy still. We've got Venus lingering there just a little in the beginning of the month. We've got Mars there for a good portion of the month. And we've got a little bit more time with Jupiter there. And what this means for Scorpio is continued trines to your placement. Trines are the most favorable aspect in all of astrology. They're the type of aspect that can bring sweet things to you without you having to do anything for them. And you may or may not even need to activate the things that come to you. They can just kind of fall in your lap. They can come in the form with the houses and areas in your chart that are being aspected in the form of a new solidness of self, a definite increase in your creativity, your creative juices. Anything on the topic of children can come to a great expansion. You could spend more time with kids that are important to you, your own, or be having your own children. Or this can just be creative babies. Anything that puts you out in front of people or gets your work, like your soul work. It may also be associated with your work, like your business work or the work you make money for, but it doesn't have to be. This is like your work, like your spirit made manifest into form through, usually it's some sort of artistic endeavor. But artistic can mean many, many things. There can be art in athleticism. There can be art in fashion. There can be art in singing, in music and all of these things. So your creative juices have been fueled for a long period of time, and here extra in the short period of time, because we have had an extended flow of Pisces planets further out than they usually are. Usually we've got February, March, but now we've got like April, May. So this has been a blessing for Scorpios, and you've certainly had a lot of chances to not only improve your relationship with your creativity and have a lot of output and make time for your creative space, but also to fuel your romantic sector. This same energy that sparks creation, that starts with romance and can turn into a baby, you know how that flow goes, is the same flow that continues into romance and romantic relationships and is relevant to your true love. So there's definitely been a sustained period of time where the topic of expanding or improving your romantic life has been on your mind and has been showing up in front of your face. And sometimes some of those things can come through some conflicts, but inevitably with this beautiful trine series, hopefully that is creating a situation that any conflict that comes up turns into a blessing, okay? And that blessing can come in the form of realizing someone's not good for you and leaving, and there's energy of that because the eclipses are highlighting your me-we sectors. So you're getting it from the romantic sector, from the Pisces placements. You're getting the focus on self and relationships from the eclipses. And so there's just a massive amount of relationship transformation that is afoot. And a lot of that transformation might start within you. You seeing things differently, you doing things differently, you being more healthy, converting dysfunction alchemically into functionality. And that's a big process that's going on for Scorpios right now. Now, as the planets are moving from Pisces, they're going to Aries. And this is a very different energy in general, right? It's going from a sleepy, quiet, magical, mystical, creative energy into a robust, fervent, fiery, rambunctious energy. So you might be getting very, rambunctious is a really great word, like a bull in a china shop. And you might be ready to do something and ready to take action. So just keep in mind that with the retrogrades at this time, you can take actions, but a lot of the actions you take might turn out to be shorter term or different than you expect. And if that's okay, then act away. We usually say try to avoid big decisions, big long-term decisions with long-term consequences, because things do tend to be renegotiated or turn out differently. And that, when you're trying to do something decisive, you don't want a willy-nilly shifty energy that is associated with that. But the little things, like you're going to try this certain thing, you're going to have this little marketing push, you're going to test out a little bit of investing in this certain thing in a low stakes sort of a way. So it rules sort of dabbling in low stakes things. But you are going to be feeling feisty and ready to do things. And the energies are also going to start moving into Gemini, which means you're going to want to move around. It's a high social energy, like a lot of social energy interactions and communication, which is fueling nicely. The Gemini energies will fuel nicely with this Aries energy. But neither of those energies flow as well for your placement as these water energies have. Okay, so that's a very important must know for Scorpio, because you're going to have some pressure and awkwardness applied, which means that some little we'll call them like a little could come up, meaning you've got to do something that you might not want to do, and you might have to look at some things you might not want to look at, and some of those things might have to do with your health, And some of those things might have to do with your daily routine, your daily work, how you're doing your work. If you are losing a lot of time in the day to inefficient practices and getting lost online, or being overwhelmed by emotions and sort of spacing out, or having attention issues, this is a time where you can really start to deal with those things. So if you're finding at the end of the day that you're not getting things done, one big must know and really great tip from a book I read called The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss. It was a life-changing book for me. And I'll bring it back around to talk about it sometimes. But with the way that your chart's lit up, I want to mention it here. One big key takeaway from that book that I took that changed my life was, if you have a list of a million things to do, a lot of times we're doing those things that are sort of not as productive on the list just to get them checked off. But there are some causal, really big things on the list that if we did those things, it would actually make a big difference in what we were doing. And so people tend to do all this other busy stuff and avoid those things. Well, if you figure out what those things are and put them top on your list and get them done first, then if you don't get anything else done during the day, you're still going to actually be more productive than if you were working on your list all day. And then you look back and say, what the heck did I do? So this is a time where that type of thing might come to your awareness, including attention issues. You might need some supplementation. You might need to get some, advice from people who are qualified in those professions to assist you with being able to manage stress and manage attention. Those are two things that I see that are coming up very specifically. So, Venus is going to go in Aries, Mars is going to go in Aries. This is going to make everybody very rambunctious. This is going to make everybody ready for action, and it could bring some aggression. Okay, so if you have some aggressive things or passive aggressive things come up, you might have to deal with those, and it might be helpful to have physical exercise to support the clearing of this, but not to the degree where you injure yourself. Okay, so don't hit the gym too hard, because this is a type of energy where you could be mad and go to the gym and try to work it out that way and then injure yourself. So just be super careful with that kind of thing. Jupiter is moving into Aries, and this is a landmark event, right? This only happens every 12 years, and it's very exciting. And we are actually going to go into a lot of detail about where it's going for you next and what you can expect from that. And then I'll talk about the time frame that it will be there as well. But before we get there, I want to talk about the eclipse cycle. I want to talk about some other Jupiter events that are occurring now, and then we'll get to the Jupiter in Aries. Okay, so let's cycle back now to the lunar eclipse. Starting at the end of last year and going through the middle of 2023, we are in a Taurus Scorpio eclipse cycle. If you haven't watched my April report yet, then I highly recommend that you do that, because we do have an April eclipse, April 30th in Taurus, which is opposing your sign, and we do have a 25-degree lunar eclipse, Scorpio, on May 16th. But eclipse season, eclipses as an astrological event are different than eclipses as an astronomical event. From an astronomical perspective, they happen when they're happening, but astrologically, there's a season. Okay, so we really started to activate this season in the middle of March. So you're probably starting to see hints and signs, maybe in a big way, of what this me, we, my stuff versus your stuff, my independence versus our interdependence, the topic of codependency, things your partner's doing, things that, you're doing. All of these things are going to come up, and there probably will be some very notable events. You could see some surprising behavior from your partner, or what can seem like surprising for you, and maybe on their end it's been building for a while and it seems all of a sudden to you because it's happening now, and it might seem like it's a shock, but some of those things can shock you into making changes that you really need to make. But there is that energy of sort of shock and surprise and kind of getting zapped right into the present moment, where you're forced to look at certain things in your relationship space. Some relationships are going to end. These eclipses definitely can end any kind of relationship, a business relationship, a romantic relationship, but it can also end a chapter or a pattern within the relationship. Most people's relationships will survive this eclipse cycle. but it very likely is going to change, okay? And so this series of eclipses over these 2 years is really restructuring everything in your life. It's very important to remember, big must know, that eclipses are related to karma and dharma. So an eclipse cycle gives a chance for negative karma to be cleared out, old patterns to be cleared out, and your dharma, or your highest expression, to be set in front of you in a more solid way. So sometimes that takes a big trajectory shift if we've wandered very much off track. Sometimes things that are fated to happen, they happen now around the eclipse. And sometimes we get a chance to renew and revitalize and redo something, especially with the retrograde energy happening simultaneously, where we didn't get something quite right, and then we have another chance to say, okay, I'm going to try it this time. And you have a lot of oomph with the Aries placements to be able to, do what you need to do. So everyone in the Scorpio spectrum is very likely going to be affected by one or both of these eclipses in very notable ways. And that's because one of them is earlier, the Taurus eclipse is earlier in the sign, and the Scorpio eclipse is later in the sign. Okay, so that means that between the two eclipses, April 30th, May 16th, everyone pretty much is going to have some within a close range of a hit. And you can see the April report for the date and birthday ranges that will be most affected by the Taurus eclipse, but we'll talk about this 25-degree one here. So those of you who are in the late degree sector, pretty much the same people who I said go ahead and watch the Sagittarius report as well. So like 20 degrees through the rest of the sign, the closer to 25 degrees. So that's going to be like November 10th through the rest of the sign, and the closer to November 15th, the more intense, November 15th, 16th, 17th kind of days around there, the more intense. And if you want to know your exact degree and not just have a guesstimate here, go to anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter. Right there it will say hello friends, and then have your email address and name. You'll get a welcome letter that will have the password to access the software, which you can only access if you've signed up for the newsletter first. And then you can run the free birth chart, and then you can come back and listen to my reports and then see what your degrees are, and if you're going to likely be hit by a very, very strong, profound experience with this. So like I said, all of you have a chance to have profound changes, but some of you, those of you in the later degree spectrum, are more likely to feel this one. So to get really good coverage to understand the many different layers of how this 25-degree Scorpio eclipse can affect you, I am going to refer you to some additional resources that I've created. So look for Annie Botticelli Eclipses in Scorpio. You can search for that organically on YouTube, or you can go to my Annie Botticelli homepage on YouTube and look for my Eclipse playlist. That is for all Scorpio placements. Okay, now also for all Scorpio placements, I suggest that you look for my eclipses in the first house, or Aries, because from the whole house perspective, this is going to be in the first house for all of you. Okay, so look for eclipses in Aries or eclipses in the first house, Annie Botticelli, and you will see the implications for the house. I've talked about some of them, but you can get more information. So for November born Scorpios, or 11 degrees to the rest of the sign, I also suggest that you watch my eclipses in Pisces or eclipses in the 12th house. It's the same energy, because from the Placidus chart perspective, with every day that you move into the sign of Scorpio, it's dialing that eclipse back towards that 12th house. And so the odds of a manifestation in the 12th house increase the later you get in the sign, but anyone in the November timeframe really has a potential to see it there. So you definitely want to watch that as well. Okay, so now let's talk about the Jupiter things. The Jupiter things of note, we've got a Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces. That is the strongest April 8th through 12th, but we do feel that aspect March, April, and May. It's a very supremely positive aspect, but because it's a conjunction, there is a little bit of neutrality in it where it can have some challenging effects. We're not going to talk about all of this here because I I have a whole separate video on that. So if you search for Annie Botticelli Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, then you can see all of the details. But for our purposes here, I just want to let you know that this is still very much in effect at this time in May. And those of you who are near 23 degrees, so between 18 degrees and 28 degrees, so like November 8th through 18th, the closer to November 13th, the more intense you'll experience this. That's occurring. Then we have the Jupiter sextile Pluto. And this is another rare aspect. Jupiter sextile Pluto happens a little bit more frequently, but Jupiter in Pisces and Pluto in Capricorn, that is much more rare. We've had one sort of recently, but before that, it was like the 1700s. So again, I did a separate video on that. Just look for Jupiter sextile Pluto, Annie Botticelli. It's on my homepage under Astrology playlist. But what we need to know here as a must know is that strongest May 1st through 5th, it's a very positive aspect that can bring opportunities that you have to capitalize by taking action. That's a big theme for you this month. And you will feel this especially April through June. Okay, so it is a few months that this is taking place. It is a positive aspect. It is involving Jupiter. And again, those of you at the end of the spectrum, I know who's in the early part's going to say, what about me? Nothing's for me. And that's not true. The whole report is for you. But just the eclipses and these aspects are going to be in closer proximity for the later degree placements. Okay, so those of you who are 23 degrees to the rest of the sign, the closer to 28 degrees, you will get the goodies even more strongly from this aspect, but all of you have fair chance to have yummy stuff from it. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Jupiter in Aries. Jupiter is moving into Aries on May 11th. It's going to be there through October 28th. Then it's going to dip back into Pisces from October 28th through December 21st. Just the last couple of degrees of Pisces. So those of you who are the last couple of days of Scorpio, you're actually going to get extra kisses come, the end of October, November into December, because you'll have that trine happen again. You'll have it happen now, and then it will happen again then. But then it moves into Aries, and then it will go back 12/21 through May 17th of 2023, right? So this essentially is affecting in Aries for a year. And so now that you know the time frame, let's talk about where this is going to be affecting you, which is going to be the 6th house. So let's dive deep into what kinds of effects you can see with Jupiter transiting in that place for you. Okay, so when we apply the energies of Jupiter transit, so we add Jupiter to the 6th house, we want to look at the areas that Jupiter rules, look at the key points, and add them to the energies of the 6th house or Virgo. And anything that we add together on these sides will be a potential that Jupiter can bring from its transit. All right, so Jupiter in this position can bring the promise of potentials for great health, the right practitioners, and the means to procure their services will be very supported at this time. Something like an answer to a previously enigmatic health issue can also be likely. And if you are not active in exploring all the avenues for healing, Jupiter might expand your diversification on the topic of looking for solutions to your healing. This can also have to do with modalities that maybe you weren't open to before, because remember, Jupiter can expand your philosophy or viewpoint. So maybe you weren't open to alternative medicine, and maybe you have a change in your viewpoint, and then you try it and it works, or vice versa. Maybe you're into alternative medicine and there's some kind of more mainstream modality, and you change your viewpoint, and then you get the healing. So it's just all about the openness. Openness is more likely to breed, a result as far as a solution, because Jupiter also rules solutions. Okay. Any kind of congenital issue or an underlying condition or symptom also has a greater chance of being unearthed now. So things by looking into your genetics, and basically going as wide as possible, broadening, and covering all of your bases with your efforts will definitely help Jupiter to work its magic. Something else that we can see is enhancement, amplification of, changes in viewpoints of, broadening of, optimism, having to do with your daily circumstances. So this Jupiter or sixth house in Virgo rules your daily work, so your office environment or whatever your usual daily experience can have a boost from the Great Benefic. Any kind of problems with like employees or coworkers, if there's something under the surface, it has a chance of being exacerbated. If there's already a problem, it could either get worse or come to the solution, or it getting worse could bring the solution. But the energy of solution and resolution is definitely very Jupiterian. And if you are unemployed and want to have work, it can amplify your work or be additive. Again, a key here might be diversification. Let's say you need income and you're going for this one job and it's not working out, then maybe getting a couple of smaller, part-time things might be honoring this energy and could give you more luck. Diversification is often very key wherever Jupiter is moving through at this time. Okay, so the connection with the body emotions and the mind, body, spirit may also become of interest. I talked about this as it relates to your health or a specific health problem, but just the general practice of expanding your scope and through things, like yoga or meditation or supplements are all increased in, in your opportunity. And also stress management. Stress management and sleep management is one of the two of the top things we could do for our health. So you might find some luck or some information or change of viewpoint that could help at this time. Things having to do with your organization and your systems. Like you could be very disorganized and you could go through and get a good system together and it could completely change your life. Anything having to do with pets, getting a new pet, fostering a pet, becoming involved with pets or animals in some way for your work or for your healing can be of special note at this time. And also notable interactions with other animals. If you are going to see a captive animal in a zoo or somewhere else, you could have some kind of healing or profound experience with animals at this time. So remember to go big with your goals anywhere here. Plant as many seeds as possible. Think about the topic of freedom and how you can find solutions. Know that a weak link could come up. And understand the profound effects of changing your perspective on these topics to yield amazing results. Okay, so I've given you lots to work with to help you make the most of the energies this month and to help you understand the energetic patterns at work and play. And if you'd like more resources, I've got all of these here. You can additionally go to the little more button, the little arrow underneath the bottom right of the video. Click on that and all of the links that I'm giving you here will be clickable, right? So if you're looking for reading options, including a beautiful, very detailed 45-minute audio of your birth chart for $33 from my brilliant husband, you can find that at anniebclarity.com. You can go to anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter. This is where you can access running a free birth chart. This is where you access my 28-day in-depth virtual coaching program called Shine for free. This is also where you'll find tons of blogs, and you get lots of other perks for being on my newsletter list. If you're looking for written horoscopes by me, always up a month early, you can go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. If you haven't seen this site, go to it. It is so beautiful. We've got, me and my team have lots of amazing astrology-inspired blogs and healthy living blogs. We've got hypnosis for all the signs. We've got healing frequencies for all the signs. I've got the written horoscopes that I write. We have yoga for all the signs. So it's just a very beautiful, comprehensive site. If you're looking for free courses on how to manifest money and wellness, you can go to lumlife.com, my school, Luminous Life Multiversity, LUMLIFE. You can also find my astrology education courses here, including my behemoth of a master course called Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery Course, which you can fully utilize even if you don't want to be a professional astrologer, but it certainly will get you up to the level where you could be and show you how to make your business a success. And payment plans are available there too. Now, I've also got 2 books out and more on the way. Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe. You will find this on the bookshelves in all major booksellers, including all the Books A Million, all the Barnes & Nobles. It's right there on the shelf. Plus, you can get it on Amazon and through any independent bookseller. And you can find Radical Prayer on Amazon, and you can order it anywhere as well. So I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.